If you are reading this, then you have survived an emergency evacuation of a capital-class ship equipped with Altera technology. Congratulations. The hard part is over. Your PDA has automatically rebooted in emergency mode. This operating system has one directive: to keep you alive on a hostile alien world. If that is not possible, it will alert salvage teams to the location of your remains. It features full monitoring of vital signs for timely survival advice, blueprints for fabricating a range of essential survival equipment tailored to your environment, onboard camera, microphone, and OCR technology for short-range situational analysis, cross-compatibility with all Altera-compliant products. Your personal and work files have been encrypted and may be retrieved at a later date, quartz, by a licensed engineer. Survival checklist. Administer first aid if required. Take inventory of available materials and supplies, and decide on rations. Survey the environment for threats and resources. Construct necessary survival equipment using the Lifepod's fabricator. Metal salvage. Check Lifepod for damage, and repair as necessary. Broadcast local distress signal using Lifepod's short-range radio. Locate other survivors using line of sight or the radio. Find or construct a more permanent habitat. Maintain physical and psychological health until rescue. This information is meant as a general guide. In the first instance, you should always follow the advice of your PDA, which has taken your particular circumstances into account. Something, safety, be careful, blah blah, got it. Warning: Blueprint database corrupted. Damage to your PDA's hard drive has corrupted approximately 80% of stored survival blueprints. Blueprints may be reacquired by scanning a salvage technology using the handheld scanner, or by downloading plans from a shipboard databox. In the circumstances, these assets will most likely be found amongst the wreckage from the Aurora. 4546b Environment Scan. Category 3 Ocean Planet. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. Extensive biodiversity. Safety warnings. May support Leviathan-class predators. Water containment with high levels of foreign bacteria. Planet is beyond Federation space. Rescue unlikely. It is not recommended to explore this environment without hazardous material suits and extensive support apparatus.
Giant coral tubes. This variety of coral formations on 4546b appear to be different solutions to the same problem of maximizing water and nutrient flow throughout the colony. These particular variants funnel water down a tube, filtering nutrients as they pass. Their size suggests they have been highly successful. Coral tube samples are rich in calcium, exploitable in bleach fabrication. Coral shell plate. This variant of coral has adapted to survive in close proximity to other corals, filtering nutrients from the water and sharing them via a spore-like substance which grows around the base. No practical applications discovered.
Oxygen.
Writhing weed. Well adapted to both shallow waters and cave systems, this plant lives in symbiosis with a coral species which forms around the base of the stems.
Scattered wreckage. Analysis confirms this wreckage is from the Aurora. Outer layers of the material have oxidized, suggesting it has been heated to over 1200 degrees Celsius. This pattern is consistent with hull disintegration during atmospheric entry. Salvage of intact portions of Altera vessels is prohibited at legal, moral, and technical levels. However, scraps such as these may be reclaimed for their titanium content at any Altera fabricator. Limestone outcrops. These unusual geological structures often form around titanium and copper deposits, and are distinct to this planet. Closer analysis reveals the stone around the metal has been hardened against erosion, but the mechanism remains unknown. Titanium and copper source.
table coral. Each disc is an individual colony of microorganisms, filtering nutrients from the water. Growth patterns indicate the colonies are in direct competition for positions with superior current or light. Unlike other coral species, its structure is malleable, softly pulsating as it pumps nutrients to the extremities, and only turning rigid when it senses physical assault. The jewel-like nodes in its surface are concentrated buildups of rare minerals the coral is unable to process, exploitable in computer chip fabrication. Gasopod, a slow-moving lifeform and one of the larger herbivores on the planet, providing a substantial meal to would-be predators. The gasopod protects its domain by filling the surrounding waters with poisonous and corrosive pods whose contents dissolve even synthetic fibers. Thick, non-reactive skin and multiple gill layers render this creature impervious to the noxious acid clouds it produces. A bulbous, sac-like appendage on the rear end. A luminescent yellow algae grows inside the sac and produces the poisonous compound. Abdominal muscles can contract, causing the algae gland to emit the noxious compound into the surrounding water. Large pelvic fins, capable of powerful movement through the water when moving in small herds. Gasopods appear to be social in nature, and may even use their emissions in their relationship rituals. Their audible calls are likely signifiers of nearby threats or food sources. Approach with caution. Acidic pods may be retrieved and repurposed. Acid mushroom, a common spore-bearing fungi species. The flesh contains a high acidic compound, which leaches into the water if the outer skin is penetrated. It is not clear which predator species necessitated such extreme countermeasures, but the acid mushroom's numbers suggest it has successfully deterred most of them. Acid has applications in battery fabrication. Shuttlebug, a common scavenger at the base of the food chain. Small enough to be of little threat to most organisms, this creature is clearly adapted to feed on the waste products of the ecosystem around it. Its 3 mandibles are used to orient themselves when drifting, and to filter through detritus on cave floors. High-strength muscles in its 3 legs can propel the lifeform great distances through the water. Creepvine, a kelp species concentrated in large forests, in shallow, sandy waters. Loose roots anchor the plant to the sea floor, from where it grows steadily towards the surface in pursuit of sunlight. The stem is fibrous and rich in iron, making it both a viable base material for fabrications of textiles as well as a basic foodstuff.
Sandstone outcrops. These common, porous outcrops seem to form around small amounts of precious metals, or otherwise these metals are part of a sedimentary buildup over time. Lead, silver, and gold source.
Garryfish, a slow-moving and curious herbivore. Camouflage indicates adaptation for evasive behavior on the ocean floor. Its eye stalks may be beneficial when watching for predators from hiding places amongst the coral. More active during daylight hours, but slow and docile at all times. The garryfish's survival depends on a combination of camouflage and predators who can get a more filling meal elsewhere. Boomerang, a herbivore encountered in large numbers, found to frequent shallow waters and move in schools. Serrated teeth suggest adaptation for grinding corals other herbivores are unable to digest. Unusually, this species' 2 fins are a cartilaginous extension of its skeleton. They are less prone to damage and provide superior propulsion, but are also harder to grow back. The bright blue tips are in fact the ends of its digestive tract, where the luminescence of the corals it consumes is most focused. Most active during daylight hours and prone to flee on approach, the boomerang can more easily be observed at night when its luminescence gives it away and it seeks the shelter of the seabed. Bladderfish. This unusual herbivore appears to be mostly defenseless and bears little resemblance to other life forms around it. The bladderfish is able to filter air and sea water into its body cavity through a unique membrane which surrounds its spine like a bladder. This allows it to remove and consume organic particulate caught on the way and adjusts its buoyancy. Open-ended vascular tubing can be angled and contracted to pump out water and achieve low-velocity, guided propulsion. Largely oblivious to threats and practically immobile at night, its only identified defense mechanism is that it's composed almost entirely of water, air, and cartilage. Oxygen may be retrieved from the bladder and added to tanks on consumption. Membrane has applications as a natural water filter. Sulfur plant. These plants appear to serve as nests for the explosive organisms which guard them. The outer petals are undamaged by the presence of the inhabiting creature, suggesting a complex co-development. The plant has evolved to feed on nutrients and minerals deposited within it by the fish. Sulfuric deposits on the inner leaves provide an insight into the mechanism by which the creatures explode. Sulfur has applications in construction of the repair tool.
Evidence suggests that a substantial number, if not all of the local species, reproduce through egg laying. Eggs can be found resting on the sea floor, buried beneath detritus, or even wedged into cracks in the rock. Different species likely favor different biomes as their nesting grounds. Eggs discovered in the wild are in some form of natural stasis, likely awaiting ideal conditions in which to hatch, or the delivery of some vital enzyme which will kickstart the process. It is impossible to calculate the species of the egg from the exterior. However, it may be possible to stimulate a hatching response if an egg is relocated to a suitable alien containment unit.
Veined nettle. A common, shallow water plant which frequently shows signs of predation around the edges of the leaves. Thick, violet veins carry nutrients to the extremities of the fan, and brightly colored seeds grow around the base and the stem. Rabbit ray. A herbivorous aquatic life form, rabbit rays appear to live serene and solitary lives, with few predators, a natural sense of curiosity, and awesomely poisonous flesh. Twin orange appendages mounted on the head sense vibration in the water. Markedly similar method of transportation to that of Earth rays. Zero genetic resemblance detected, suggesting these two species independently developed similar solutions to their environmental circumstances. Evidence indicates its large, side-facing eyes are relatively recent adaptations. It is likely there are related ray species in other environmental biomes on the planet. Inedible, but harmless. Hoopfish. Small, school-mentality prey fish with a unique method of propulsion, and a distant relative to the bladderfish. Rather than swimming, this life form uses the fine green antennae which encircle its body to alter the composition of the water in front of it, allowing it to sail into the low-density space created. Its purple and green coloration may be a camouflage adaptation for mid-range light wavelengths, possibly indicating the hoopfish is more active at dawn and dusk. While schools of hoopfish will form periodically and evade predators en masse, this behavior is more social than it is defensive, and lone hoopfish are often found hunting for food and displaying generally curious behavior. Edible. Blue palm. The blue palm is a common aquatic plant which thrives in shallower waters with high exposure to sunlight. Long fronds intercept light before it can reach the smaller floral on the seabed. Stalker, a streamlined predator encountered in the kelp forests, in wait of prey leaving the safety of the shallows to feed. The stalker likely carved out its evolutionary niche at the sweet spot between speed and size millions of years ago, and may be one of the oldest species on the planet. The stalker appears to be attracted to titanium deposits, which tends to sharpen and put stress on its teeth. As with many predators, it may be possible to temporarily distract hungry stalkers by feeding them. The stalker's teeth are unusually hard and fast-growing. Its elongated snout can deliver huge biting pressure to larger attackers, while also being used to reach smaller herbivores seeking refuge amongst the rocks. Retinal layering on the eyeballs suggests adaptation for nighttime hunting. The dorsal ridges can be moved independently to deliver superior maneuverability. With long and powerful pelvic fins, the stalker has evolved to hunt the fastest of prey. Stalker teeth may have applications in enameled glass fabrication. Peeper, a fast prey fish encountered in shallow waters and rich in protein, capable of discerning colors not just in shallow waters, but in a variety of lighting conditions. It is also able to close its eyelids, thus preventing light from reflecting off the lenses and rendering the peeper almost invisible to nighttime predators. This species has evolved powerful fins, which enable rapid acceleration in still water, and the ability to leap meters into the air to avoid pursuers. Its beak is likely used to break down corals in tough vegetation. An unusually large nasal cavity serves no obvious purpose, and appears to be specially evolved to detect a single, specific enzyme. Nothing encountered on the planet so far produces a matching odor. The tubes attached to the peeper's torso are connected directly to its stomach and gills, and appear to be designed to expel its contents on demand. Purpose unclear. While the peeper is well adapted to survive in shallow waters, a number of its features serve no discernible purpose. It would appear to be just as well suited to survive in deeper waters, and is somewhat more intelligent than the usual small herbivore. Edible. High calorie count. Further research required. Whole fish. A very small herbivore found in low numbers, often around cave system entrances where their skin coloration blends into the background. By manipulating the size and shape of the hole in its tail, it can perform unpredictable maneuvers. Smaller than most other herbivores, presumably due to a lack of vegetation in low-light environments. Edible. Hoverfish, a small, cautious herbivore commonly found in kelp-rich environments. 6 unique limb appendages feature charged pads, capable of ionizing the surrounding water. The hoverfish uses this ability to maintain its position against the current as it feeds from kelp and lichen. Edible. Brain coral, a permanent, growing colony of microscopic organisms. This coral species has adapted to filter carbon dioxide from the environment, using the carbon to build the colony and expelling the oxygen from specialized exhaust funnels. It is quite hardy, suggesting samples from a mature specimen could be grown artificially. Air tanks are equipped to siphon oxygen from the water where possible. Floater, two species living in symbiosis, which attach to and attempt to feed on any objects they come in contact with. The pink main body and inner suction jaw is the dominant creature. Once attached to an organism or other stable surface, it will attempt to leach nutrients in order to grow. The outer, gel-like substance is a mesh of microorganisms capable of forming a sealed vacuum around the creature's jaws. A thin layer of helium is stored within the outer membrane, providing buoyancy to the floater and anything it is attached to. May aid in flotation of sunken objects. Redwort, a common plant adaptable to many different environments. The redwort is a staple part of the diet of many smaller herbivores. Bulbo tree, a bulb-based flora which roots to the ground and sprouts turquoise leaves. Analysis suggests the sap produced by this plant is poisonous to insects. It can be harvested and consumed by humans for its high water content.
Purple tablets. This carbon-based device is lighter than it looks, and features a symbol which represents a U, lit up in purple. Despite the onboard power still functioning, algae growth on the exterior indicates it was abandoned hundreds, perhaps thousands of years ago. While the technology is far beyond Federation levels, and there is no obvious way to interface with it, it should nonetheless be possible to fabricate a precise physical copy of the device, if necessary. Force Field Control Terminal. This device matches no known technologies, and is likely alien in nature. Power is being routed via the terminal to the nearby force field. The technology is far beyond anything encountered before by the Federation. Nonetheless, there is a good chance it functions like a regular lock, and only requires the correct kind of key.
Unknown language. Attempting translation.
Alien Data Terminal. Discovered inside an alien facility, it was not possible to translate any useful information. However, scans have returned some information on the device itself. It is likely a solid-state computer, although there is no clear way to interface with it. On approach, it began producing a low-frequency radio wave containing complex but recognizable data patterns. It is likely the alien species which designed this technology evolved, or genetically selected, sensory apparatus to hear and understand the information being broadcast by the device and to communicate back. The mental processing power required to perform this kind of telepathy would imply the designers were considerably more psychologically developed than the common human. Assessment. Further research required. Ion Cube. This green mineral substance has no entry on the periodic table, and an unprecedented ability to store huge amounts of ionic energy within it. Likely grown artificially, cubic appearance suggests that it has been cut from a larger deposit. Each cube contains the equivalent ionic energy of 5 kilotons of TNT. Under the right conditions, the energy could be released in a controlled manner. Likely used as batteries, but would require substantial power to be recharged. Assessment. Valuable source of energy.
Unknown language. Attempting translation.
Enforcement Platform Schematic. This dataset appears to be a multi-dimensional schematic of some kind. By mapping the pattern to 3-dimensional space, it is possible to gather a basic understanding of this facility's internal workings. The facility's unknown construction material is identified as an ultra-hard, non-reactive metal amalgam, synthesized from off-world materials. There is no indication that it can be damaged or destroyed by available means. The schematic indicates the facility was to be powered by a separate, self-sustaining power plant, located elsewhere on the planet. The location is not listed, but there is evidence the designers intended to harness the planet's natural thermal energy. The facility consists of the upper engineering section, where the schematic was found, and the control room, which is accessed via a security-sealed elevator shaft, or a separate underwater moon pool. The control room in the lower section houses the only known way to interface with the facility. However, the schematic does not detail the operation procedure or installed security measures. Alien rifle. Strong resemblance to human weaponry and form. This device must have been designed with a humanoid user in mind. Whether the aliens that built this structure were themselves humanoid, or otherwise employed the use of humanoids, is unclear. What is clear is that they considered defending this facility a necessary precaution. There is no obvious way to remove the rifle from the case. Alien Arch. This structure's intended purpose is unclear. Theories on function, ceremonial or religious role, industrial applications, advanced transportation network. Further research required. Doomsday device. Scans indicate this device contains enough potential energy to destroy the entire planet, along with most of the solar system. Fortunately, it has malfunctioned.
Translating background broadcast. Downloading summary to databank.
Energy core. This device houses energy equivalent to 100 megaton nuclear detonation, which can be channeled through the facility and directed at vessels overhead, or bent around the planet's gravitational pull to strike targets in orbit. Power is routed via the attached terminal, allowing for the device to be deactivated if necessary. It is currently operating without parameters, suggesting it will target any ship within range. Alien facility locations. Intercepted background data regarding further alien facilities elsewhere on the planet. Disease research facility. Depth 800 meters. Location: cave system with extensive fossil record. Southwest of enforcement platform. Function: live specimen study. Objective: synthesis of antidote for highly infectious bacterium designated Carrara. Thermal power facility. Depth 1200 meters. Location: inside an extensive natural rock formation in an area of intense volcanic activity. Function: generate energy for all local facilities. Sanctuary A, data corrupted. Sanctuary B, data corrupted. Off-site laboratory, data corrupted. Primary containment facility, data corrupted. In the event of an outbreak, quarantine procedures will be automatically enforced with immediate effect.
Passing 100 meters. Oxygen efficiency decreased.
The quarantine enforcement platform will target all incoming and outgoing craft to prevent the spread of infection off-world.
Aye. An extreme evolutionary adaptation, where 90% of the lifeform's body mass is dedicated to the ocular cavity. Deep-set rings in the lens of the oversized eyeball suggest specialization for identifying its predators in low-light environments, long before they come into attack range. With underdeveloped fins incapable of fast movement, this species is vulnerable to agile predators at close range. Shark species may have evolved hunting techniques to close on the eye unseen from above, below, or behind. This organism and the common peeper share a common evolutionary ancestor. While the eye has sacrificed maneuverability, it shares and enhances its cousin's powerful eyesight. The ancestral alpha peeper may have been one of the first life forms on 4546b to develop eyesight, many millions of years ago. Edible, but low calorie count. Crashfish. This unusual species has developed an emergency defense mechanism based on mutually assured destruction. Forward-mounted eye enables the creature to identify and track potential predators. Sulfur plant. The sulfur plant has evolved to feed on sulfuric compounds secreted by the crashfish, which makes its nest within its leaves. Stronger, more protective plants provide superior nesting grounds, which in turn provide the plant with more nutrients from larger crashfish. Concentrations of sulfur build up in the organism over time. If the crashfish collides with something at sufficient speed, the spikes on its torso are impacted, triggering an explosive chemical reaction. Equip stasis rifle, repulsion cannon, or similar before approaching shallow caves.
Ruby, a hard, blood-red gemstone made of aluminium oxide. Rubies may be processed in order to leverage their structural integrity in advanced vehicle construction and modification, essential for advanced fabrication. Lifepod 19, Second Officer Cain's crew log. To all crew, if you are reading this, then you have followed the automatic distress signal broadcast by this Lifepod's onboard computer. Contrary to my orders, I have been forced to evacuate. Your orders are to disregard my safety and attempt to reach the designated rendezvous coordinates at the nearest landmass. I hope to see you there.
"30 seconds.
Gel sac. These organic structures grow on cave walls. The purple sacs, which arise from the surface, contain a low-density gel laced with spores. These burst from time to time, floating towards the surface and attaching onto the next rock face they encounter. While the gel sac is edible, its low density renders it an invaluable advanced construction material. Edible. Aerogel construction applications. Bleeder. A simple parasitic organism, little more complex than the common space tick, but just as dirty. Its ductile sac is used for collection and digestion of blood drawn from host creatures. Within its jaw are rows of teeth and mandibles, used to attach to the skin of its victims. The bleeder's low speed and poor defenses suggest they have evolved primarily as carrion feeders, but they are also prone to attack larger living creatures which are less likely to take notice and take action against this parasite. Inconvenient and unhygienic. Avoid or incapacitate. Spadefish, a medium-sized herbivore found in deeper waters, observed swimming near the seabed from where it can keep its one eye on predators in the water above it. Commonly encountered in plant-rich environments, the spadefish is well adapted to hide amongst the vegetation. Spadefish tend to move in loose shoals, and despite their low speed, may take necessary measures to avoid confirmed predators. Edible.
Alien vents. These vents connect to an ancient piping network that extends beyond maximum scannable depth. The pumping system is still functional. The inflow vent is drawing water from the surrounding area and pumping it into an unknown location below the surface. Warm, deoxygenated water is being expelled into the atmosphere. Most creatures are avoiding the vents. Peepers can be observed entering and exiting the pipe network without signs of distress. Further research required.
"30 seconds.
Eye stalk, a cave-dwelling tuber, dotted with luminescent, photosensitive eyes. These eyes may in some way direct the twisted growth of the stems themselves, possibly in reaction to other light sources, proximity of cave walls, or other environmental conditions. Ancient floater. Biodata suggests these vast floaters have matured in an ingenious symbiosis with the land they have attached to. The attached landmass is raised in the water, increasing sunlight and encouraging plant growth. As older plants decay, organic residues and nutrients seep into the rock and are consumed by the floater. These circumstances must have held for thousands of years for a floater to reach this size. Immature floaters are born near the surface, from where they sink to the seabed, attaching to any stable surface they find on the way. Those individuals fortunate enough to attach to a digestible nutrient source will grow in size, thus increasing their buoyancy and drawing whatever they are attached to closer to the surface. In extreme circumstances, a number of floaters may attach to a Leviathan-class lifeform, forcing it to the surface and effectively asphyxiating it. The body will be consumed over a number of months until eventually dissolving, leaving the floaters free to attach to a new host. Those creatures which successfully raise landmasses to the surface are rewarded with a burgeoning and permanent food source, allowing them to finally reproduce and begin the cycle again. Pink cap, a land-based fungal species with harvestable spores. Inedible. Voxel shrub, a pink-leafed plant with an angular appearance which grows exclusively on land. Ning plant, a hardy specimen which grows on land. The vase-like trunk protects the root system from predation and self-repairs over time, explaining the characteristic cracks on the side. Speckled rattler, a brittle land plant containing large spores which generate a characteristic rattle when the plant is shaken. This may act to ward off predators or even encourage predation as a means of spreading its spores. Jaffa cup, a common land fungus found in clusters, grows quickly, size is limited only by available nutrients and space. Grub basket, an orange-coloured land plant which usually contains a thick, protein-rich sludge at its base. This may suggest a carnivorous life cycle, wherein the grubs and insects are attracted to the bright petals, make their way to the centre of the plant, but are unable to scale back up the slick inner leaves and are ultimately digested. Lantern tree, a conglomeration of individual vines which rely on one another for structural support, grows exclusively on fertile land. Each vine produces orange, lantern-shaped fruits with minimal nutritional and hydration value, edible in an emergency. Fern palm. This specimen was first identified in an artificial grow bed on the island. It is not listed in existing flora databases, so it is unclear whether or not it is native to this planet. Genetic code shares some features with other local plant life, but this may be a result of DNA transfusion rather than natural evolution. Cave crawler, agile, territorial carrion feeder, well adapted to both land and sea. Its gas exchange membrane absorbs essential gases from the air or water for basic bodily regulation. This species seeks out corpses in packs before defending its claim while the corpse is devoured. Necessary waste recycler. Avoid or incapacitate. Marble melon plant. This plant collects water from the air rather than relying on its root system and produces large, fleshy fruits which are both edible and have atypically high water content. Chinese potato plant. The Chinese potato is common throughout the China territories, where synthetic foods are still stigmatized, and there remain large tracts of arable land on which to grow fresh produce. Genetically designed prior to the expansion, this plant is highly adaptable to different environments, and a staple of new colonies galaxy-wide. Edible. Anchor pods. These unusual flora specimens have been encountered exclusively in the deep reefs. They consist of a large, spherical, gas-filled membrane, anchored to the seafloor by its root system. At these depths, it is unlikely this structure is designed to enhance access to sunlight, but rather the pod's ability to propagate. Once the pods attain sufficient height, they burst, releasing spores which catch the currents and disperse around the local area. Membrane tree. This entity defies neat categorization. It consists of more than one coral species working in tandem to create an insulated microcosm enclosed within a translucent membrane. Found exclusively growing on basalt rock in the Grand Reefs, the homeostatic conditions within are considerably warmer and more dense with microbial life than the outside environment, and the bright purple fauna inside will likely die off quickly if exposed.
Degassi Crew Manifest, Paul Torgal. Auxiliary Search and Rescue Mission, Paul Torgal. Position, Chief of Torgal Corp. Captain of the Degassi. Status, lost in space near planet 4546b. Age at time of disappearance, 79. Paul Torgal and his crew fell out of contact with the Mongolian authorities close to a decade ago. The Torgals were a resourceful and powerful clan, and the ship was well equipped, so their survival is considerably likely. However, multiple vessels passing through the system have since attempted to trace the ship, to no effect. It is hoped the Aurora's superior scanning suite can do better, made majority shareholder in Torgal Corp by his mother upon her retirement. Interaction with Altera, limited to infrequent chartered munitions deliveries. Beneficiary of a life extension technologies, accompanied by his only child, Bart Torgal, 19, heir to the Torgal Corporation. Emissary Kassar reports Torgal often traveled with a skeleton crew, and was known for making rash but profitable decisions. Inadequate systems maintenance or straying from its planned route may account for the ship's disappearance.
Tree mushroom. Analysis of these large organic structures reveals a microcosm of cooperating, cohabitating, and competing life forms. The main trunk is a species of coral, some colonies up to 50,000 years old. The caps which line it share more in common with earth fungi. Other organisms grow on the structure whenever there is space and light. Surrounding waters are dense with herbivorous life forms in the 1 to 10 millimeter range, to the extent that larger herbivores appear to have mostly abandoned the area. Violet bow, a common luminescent plant which grows in patches on the seabed. Reefback Leviathan. This vast life form is in excess of 30 meters long and has been designated Leviathan class. Fortunately, it feeds exclusively on plankton-life forms in the water. Most of the life form's topside and some of its underside is protected by a thick, layered exoskeleton. This suggests an evolutionary path quite different from other organisms on 4546b, most of which are vertebrate in nature. The reefback species has likely been able to grow far larger than other herbivores because anything large enough to break through its shell has long since gone extinct. Similar in appearance to the algae glands of the gasopod, the enzyme pod organs on the reefback's underside serve some unknown purpose in its digestive system, and are capable of expelling small quantities of stomach enzymes into the surrounding waters. An array of different barnacle and plant species grow on the reefback shell, thrusting their roots into ancient scars in the chitin, and taking advantage of their mobility to avoid predation. Nonetheless, reefbacks will often be pursued by the faster, hungrier herbivores, and thus this leviathan species is a mobile microcosm worthy of years of study in itself. Reefbacks' lifespans likely extend through many centuries, should they survive their initial growth cycle. For the first few decades, their smaller size would make them vulnerable to carnivorous leviathans. Sociable, seen traveling in small pods and communicating by an echoing call, behavior is consistent with low-level sentience. Harbors plants, small fish, and metal-rich particles. Regress shell. This specimen is composed of a complex series of regressing rings, connected by tendrils. Cave bush. A purple, luminescent species which grows well on hardy terrain away from sunlight. Biter. Vicious, pack-hunting predator. 94% muscle, 4% connective tissue, 2% brain. Indiscriminate when hungry. Almost always hungry. Specialized olfactory antenna. Employed in detection of bodily fluids in the water at impressive ranges. Secondary pair of eyes. Likely dedicated to detecting the peripheral movement of larger predators and hungrier members of its own species. Overdeveloped tail fin. Favors outpacing and outnumbering their prey over individual maneuverability. Calculations suggest creatures up to 100 times the biter's body weight could succumb to a focused assault by a pack of 10. Avoid packs. Try not to bleed.
Shale outcrops. This sedimentary rock is formed from flakes of clay minerals, inside of which rare metals, such as lithium, can be found. Geological conditions on this planet mean it tends to be found in deeper biomes. Assessment: gold, lithium, and diamond source.
Tree leech. Parasitic fungus-like growth found attached to other life forms. An enzyme is released by the organism which dissolves a hole in the skin of the host, from which it leaches nutrients directly. Outer tooth-lined jaw serves no identified purpose. May be used during a different stage of the organism's life cycle. Rouge cradle, a complex cave-dwelling flora specimen. The bright yellow core of this plant is protected by a rigid cage, presumably to ward off medium-sized herbivores. Furled papyrus. The function of the distinctive curled leaves on this aquatic plant is not immediately clear. It is possible the leaves unfurl in low-light conditions, or that they are designed to channel water currents through the main body of the plant, thus enhancing nutrient take-up. Earthen coral tubes. Genetic resemblances to the giant coral tubes encountered elsewhere suggest evolutionary divergence approximately 100,000 years ago, with this subspecies being substantially lower in calcium content and specializing in growing in smaller, denser packs at deeper levels. No practical applications discovered. Spiked horn grass. While it shares a close genetic similarity with bloodgrass, this species has evolved to house its root system in rigid, horn-shaped enclosures.
Degassi Crew Manifest, Marguerite Maida. Auxiliary Search and Rescue Mission, Marguerite Maida. Position: Freelance Security Personnel. Status: Lost in Space, near planet 4546b. Age at time of disappearance: 42. Mercenary, born in the Mongolian states. Experienced in ship-to-ship and close-quarters combat techniques. Tours of duty with the Mongolian Defense Force and the Trans-System Federation. Dishonorably discharged from the TSF 15 years ago for going off mission. Details classified. Emissary Kassar reports Maida was hired to accompany Paul Torger on board the Degassi in uncharted space and defend the ship in case of assault by pirates or rival corporations.
Sand shark, a powerful, medium-sized predator that burrows into the sand and ambushes its prey from below. As with many predators, it may be possible to temporarily distract sand sharks by feeding any hungry specimens that draw close. The unusual location of the forward dorsal fin suggests the purpose unrelated to movement through the water. It may be employed in shifting sand beneath the surface, or in mating rituals, or may simply be an evolutionary dead end. Thick armor plating renders the sand shark almost immune to attack from above. While it is capable of impressive acceleration, its exoskeleton prevents it from changing direction quickly. The sand shark is thus a perfectly designed ambush hunter, but ill-suited to sustained pursuits. Its feet are ill-designed for ambulation, likely used to disturb the surface of the sand so the lifeform can burrow into the ground. Avoid. Be vigilant for ambush in sandy biomes.
Environment log. User Paul Torgel requested cross-referencing of local environment scans with ideal habitat construction conditions. Displaying results. Large subterranean cavern with multiple entrances. Conditions support a unique microcosm of predatory lifeforms. Minor structural instability in cave walls. Extensive resource deposits. Average environment safety rating C. Optimal habitat site safety rating B. Site 7 has been selected as the optimal habitat construction site for the following reasons: close proximity to one of the cave entrances in case of emergency, medium distance from predatory organisms, stable foundations on which to build, ready access to materials. A signal tracking the site has been created.
Jelly shroom, a life form unique to a microcosm located in a cave system within the grassy plateaus, where a concentration of carnivorous life forms wards off smaller predators. Consists of a tough, trunk-like base, from which grows a fragile purple membrane. Membrane structure suggests vulnerability to predation, but evidence thereof is lacking. Unknown defensive mechanisms. Possible symbiotic relationship. No predators identified.
seconds.
Magnetite. Magnetite is an iron oxide valued for its magnetic potential, amongst other qualities. It is used in many Federation technologies, including sonar and torpedo systems, essential for advanced fabrication.
30 seconds.
Drooping stingers. Zero photosynthetic cells detected. Implies carnivorous adaptation to low-light environments. Follicles along the tentacles are capable of detecting contact with foreign bodies, triggering an electromagnetic charge in the 600-watt range. Prey is likely paralyzed and consumed over many weeks. It preys upon small fish. Avoid.
Stalker teeth. Extended analysis of acquired dental samples has been completed. Samples matched to species-designated stalker. Stalker teeth exhibit extraordinary lightness and strength, and contain only trace amounts of calcium. The edges show sign of wear, and are studded with metal flakes, providing evidence that the stalkers chew on metal deposits in order to sharpen their teeth. Applications as a natural substrate in enameled glass fabrication.
Tiger plant. This plant has adapted to sense fluctuations in the water at up to 15 meters, and is capable both of prehensile movement of its tubes, as well as the propelling of thorns at speeds of up to 10 meters per second. Although capable of incapacitating small herbivores, This plant lacks carnivorous digestive organs. Would-be predators caught in its defensive perimeter serve as a warning to other herbivores not to approach. And then, as they decompose, they serve as fertilizer for the tiger plant. Avoid or incapacitate. Warper. An aggressive creature with the ability to teleport itself and others in space. No genetic crossover identified with indigenous lifeforms. Demonstrates no recognized defensive behavior. Mechanisms located in the head region provide its warping capability, which it uses to stalk its targets. Appears to hunt other lifeforms, but no digestive organs have been identified. Internal structure considerably more complex than other known organisms, unable to distinguish whether organic or artificial in nature. Further research required. Sea Treader Leviathan. A vast bipedal leviathan which roams the reefs in herds, grazing the sea floor. Antennae on the creature's head can detect a range of scents, helping the sea treaders to find fresh grazing pastures, avoid the path of large predators, and sense chemical signals from others of their kind. Thick armor protects the creature from attack by all but the largest of carnivores. 2 legs extend from the rear. Their elongated snout is used to siphon up plant material from the sea floor and maintain balance. Large herds would decimate the flora of a single area, thus encouraging the sea treader's migratory behavior. Families keep their young towards the center of the herd, and parents will lash out at over-curious interlopers in search of an easy meal. Sea treader herds may unearth mineral deposits as they churn up the sand. Jelly ray. This species has adapted to low-light environments with a translucent, luminescent body. This adaptation may help to light the surrounding area for foraging, ward away predators, and identify the organism to others of its kind. Smaller creatures have been seen swimming in the jelly ray's wake to take advantage of the light source for their own ends. And the ray itself will approach light sources, perhaps mistaking them for others of its own species. Inedible.
Integrating new PDA data.
This organism is displaying signs of a bacterial infection. Bright green blisters are forming networks around the infection sites. Pathology suggests a waterborne bacterium capable of penetrating the body through the skin and respiratory system, underlying indications of genetic mutation and aggressive behavior. The bacterium itself is unlike any so far recorded in human exploration. Warning: may be contagious. Avoid. Do not under any circumstances consume the flesh.
Bulbush. This aquatic species has evolved to grow in deep, sandy environments, and to conserve its hydration levels against relatively extreme external temperatures. The root system can fragment the shale rock it grows on to form a deep anchor point, allowing predators to graze but not easily uproot the entire plant. This grazing will tend to dislodge parts of the plant, and each section is capable of growing into a fully formed adult plant, explaining the concentrations of bulbushes in some parts of the world. Edible in small quantities. High water content. Spotted dockleaf. A simple aquatic plant. Chemicals within the leaves act to neutralize poisons and acids found in other local specimens, thereby actively encouraging predation by herbivores, albeit in small quantities. This ensures the plant both spreads its seed but retains enough surface area on its leaves to survive itself.
The Charter. Definitions. Transgov. An independent authority and a de facto control of at least one solar system and phase gates. Citizen. A person who consents, consciously or implicitly, to the authority of a recognized transgov. The Charter. Full legal contract agreed upon by 37 separate transgovs and summarized herein. The Trans-System Federation, TSF. Military police charged with enforcing the terms of the Charter, independent of, but funded by, the Transgov. Trans-System Phase Gates. Any permanent installation which enables warping of spacefaring vessels between solar systems. Transgov Principles. 1. Each Transgov is to have an equal right to the most extensive basic liberty compatible with a similar liberty for others. Each has the right to own phase gates and planetary infrastructure. Each has an obligation to share phase gate access with other transgovs on fair terms at no cost to themselves. Each has an obligation to financially maintain and comply with the TSF. Each transgov has the right to self-government, subject to the restrictions laid out below. No transgov may develop weapons and technologies outlawed in Appendix 91. No transgov shall engage in population abuse.
Passing 200 meters.
Blood root. These root systems generally extend from one cave wall to another. Where this root system breaks through into open water, its tendrils coil around one another for enhanced structural integrity. Where the root meets the cave wall, it penetrates into the rock and continues to grow, albeit at a slower rate. Both blood roots and blood vines produce blood oil pustules, confirming that they are in fact one and the same flora species. The majority of the root system thrives within the rock itself, occasionally breaking into open water to reach untapped mineral resources, or generating vines which feed on water-based nutrients. Deep shroom, a discolored relative of the acid mushroom adapted to low-light conditions. Considerably more acidic than its shallow-dwelling cousin, it may have applications in advanced fabrication, can be processed into hydrochloric acid. Blood vine. This species of kelp grows in sparse copses, deep on the ocean floor, and provides shelter for an array of distinct fauna and megafauna. Survival at these depths is challenging, and the life forms which make their homes here have developed unusual coping mechanisms, including a bleaching of skin pigment, dependency on naturally occurring metals and oils to adjust to temperature and pressure, and in some cases even electrical defense mechanisms. The vibrant red oils which seep from the blood vine coagulate into semi-hard pustules, which frequently fall loose and form a vital foodstuff for the local ecosystem, or are otherwise reabsorbed into the ground over time. Ghost weed grows exclusively in deep waters where its pale pigmentation is visible on the fewest wavelengths.
Degassi Crew Manifest. Bart Torgal.
Integrating new PDA data.
Auxiliary Search and Rescue Mission. Bart Torgal. Position: Vice President of Torgal Corp. Status: Lost in space near planet 4546b. Age at time of disappearance: 19. The only legitimate child of Paul Torgal. Beneficiary of enhanced learning techniques and cerebral implants. Digi-trained in advanced biochemistry. in stellar economics. Emissary Kassar reports Bart was accompanying his father to a newly constructed deep space station where he was to serve a 5-year term as Chief Operating Officer. Transgov Profile, Mongolian Independent States. When the hostilities of the expansion ceased, the tactical value of the hard-to-reach colony systems on the edge of the China territories plummeted. Recouping from the war, the central government left them to starve. The systems in question declared independence, claiming their infrastructure as their own, and their intent to become self-sufficient. Today, the Mongolian states is seen as a relatively minor power on the outskirts of colonized space, yet it remains one of the fastest expanding transgovs in the galaxy. There is little centralized control. In times of war, the defense force can be raised between the chief officers of the major planetary clan corps. Mongolian societies inherited their technology from the Chinese, but incorporated the customs of their multicultural colonist base. Non-synthetic foods remain popular. Religion is a strong component of society, but the Mongolians take a relaxed view of competing faiths, believing gods to be universally and equally flawed.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Mongolians will often be heard proclaiming, "I believe in gods, so long as they don't try to command me." If pushed to explain how they can believe in a god with no authority, they will explain simply that all people are gods, and their authority is equally zero.
Bone shark, a large and powerful predator that lives in small groups and fiercely defends its hunting grounds. Thickly armored exoskeleton suggests defensive adaptation, either to larger predators or in-species aggression. Marked similarity to the segmented exoskeleton of the sand shark, suggesting a relatively recent common ancestor. Large eyeballs, consistent with high light sensitivity, likely for hunting of luminescent prey in low-light environments. Generally slow and unresponsive as a means of energy conservation, they will act with uncompromising speed and aggression against any threat in their territory. Avoid. May be distracted by light sources. Crab squid. This large predator can be found in deep waters, where it lurks amongst the blood kelp and membrane trees in search of prey. It can deploy a powerful electromagnetic pulse to defend itself. 10 limbs feature different appendages for swimming, walking, hunting, and possibly even tool use. Creatures caught in its grasp are expertly butchered and quickly consumed. Rays and other illuminated herbivores are its usual prey, and it will approach and attack any light source in the vicinity. Its EMP blast was likely developed as a response to predation by creatures with electrical hunting mechanisms. While crab squids appear to have large brains and a resemblance to the intelligent squids of Earth, this organ inside the creature's head is in fact its stomach, which it must fill with startling regularity. Neutralizes electrical equipment. Lights attract its unwanted attention. A moaboid, a simple, non-sentient organism, found attached to land with high levels of fossilized organic matter. It feeds on this matter until it reaches maturity, at which point it divides to create 2 new, genetically identical offspring, and the cycle continues. Ghost ray. This ray species has adapted to deep sea conditions. Its body is fully protected by a translucent skin, and its large wings are capable of generating considerable thrust. As is common for rays on 4546b, the ghost ray's flesh is inedible, making it one of the more resilient herbivores. feeds on plant matter that has settled on the ground in deep-sea caverns.
Ancient fossilized skeleton. The skeleton of a million-year-old armored carnivore. Projections suggest this life form would have been larger than any living creature encountered on the planet. The oceans of the time would have been very different to support life forms of this size, with more open geography and many more individuals in the Leviathan range. Mixed Leviathan fossils. These fossils likely came from an ancient ancestor of the Leviathans which inhabit the planet today. The relative size and delicacy of the bones suggest they formed part of the ear canal or some other complex internal structure. Alien flora research. Local plants being held in stasis. The aliens evidently sought an extensive knowledge of the planet's ecosystem, which would have been necessary to support any live specimen research. Research equipment. The large laboratory table and accompanying scanners incorporate technologies far beyond our current level of understanding. Hypothesis. Equipment maintenance, staff maintenance, specimen analysis, specimen gene manipulation.
Crab claw kelp. A blue-tipped kelp species which tends to grow in or near acidic brine pools on the ocean floor. These brine pools are hazardous to most life forms. However, the crab claw has adapted by developing a thick, inflexible root system, which can withstand the environment and which raises the sensitive blue feeding nodules above the level of the brine.
Integrating new PDA data.
Fauna reproductive data. Extensive alien research data on the local fauna with a special focus on their reproductive methods. Core conclusions have been synthesized. The aliens discovered the life form on the planet have just one sex. They observed local organisms engaging in asexual reproduction. All healthy individuals tested were capable of egg laying. Eggs usually require genetic material from another of the species. In rare case, only one parent was required, with evolutionary mutation introduced by the effects of the environment itself. Research appears to have been focused around hatching conditions and genetic variations between parent and child. Join Altera's board of directors. It's not about money. That's what every director on Altera's board has told me, and I believe them. Profitability is just an interim measure of success. Power and status are the real goals. Make enough profit for Altera Corp, and you'll be recognized by the most powerful business people in the universe. Establish a company that obliterates the competition, and, after compulsory buyout, you can be promoted to the board of directors. Perks include travel, free use of company phase gates, entourage, personal assistance for every facet of your life, longevity, automatic organ replacement. Altera, get what you deserve.
Warning, entering ecological dead zone. Adding report to databank.
Crater Edge. Geological scans of this area show a steep decline in all directions. The data is consistent with the theory that the aurora crashed on the edge of a 2 km by 2 km volcanic crater. It has likely been millennia since the eruption reached the surface. Encouraging the ecosystem within the crater to flourish. The ecology of the trench surrounding the crater supports only two kinds of life, microscopic and Leviathan class. Exploration is ill-advised.
Ampeal, powerful and inquisitive predator, found inhabiting the deeper waters of the reefs and bulbush colonies. Torso-mounted prongs generate a powerful electrical current, which the Ampeal uses to incapacitate its prey. A large, flexible jaw, studded with large teeth. If a faster, stronger, and hungrier predator lives on the reefs, it appears to avoid the Ampeal. Avoid or incapacitate.
Uraninite. Uraninite is a naturally occurring uranium oxide, highly radioactive and unstable. Its primary use is in the production of uranium reactor rods for nuclear generators. Assessment. Applications in nuclear power.
Cuttlefish, a small, grey-coloured herbivore. The cuttlefish displays high levels of intelligence, curiosity, and attachment. Strangely, this species has not been encountered in the wild, and the scanned specimen had to be artificially hatched within an alien containment unit. In the absence of wild specimens, little can be known for certain about the cuttlefish's life cycle. It is possible that environmental conditions have changed, forcing the species to the edge of extinction and leaving its eggs in permanent stasis. It is also possible the cuttlefish has been genetically altered, or even imported to 4546b from another world. We do know that the cuttlefish is a herbivore, which displays highly social behavior in its interspecies interactions. As was observed in earth dolphins before their extinction, this creature seems to understand the concept of other minds, the prime indicator of true sentience, and attempts to communicate with a series of chirps and chirrups. Evidence suggests the cuttlefish is capable of understanding and following simple commands, in addition to assessing the emotional state of individuals around it and responding in kind. Emotional connection between living creatures is an essential component of psychological health. Crab snake. This life form appears to live in symbiosis with the local flora. All encountered specimens have been located within 50 meters of jelly shroom flora, frequently within the plants themselves. The crab snake has 2 pairs of fangs and 1 larger claw on either side. It plunges these claws into its prey, locking them in place while the inner jaw tears through the flesh. Jelly shrooms provide the perfect lair from which to ambush their prey and protect their young. The presence of crab snakes likely deters herbivores from feeding on the jelly shroom itself, thus ensuring the relationship continues. Crab snakes display territorial behavior when threatened, patrolling the cave systems in which they reside. Avoid. Reaper Leviathan. Leviathan-class species are vast organisms at the top of their respective food chains. This species is a streamlined hunter, with highly developed senses. This Leviathan is capable of locking prey in place with 4 powerful mandibles, and drawing it within reach of its jaws. Simulated pressure exceeds sea moth crush resistance. The deep roar emitted by the Reaper at regular intervals is effectively sonar. If you can hear it, the Reaper can see you. Scanned specimen measured 55 meters long, observed circling its prey and attacking from behind. This creature is almost all muscle, very little brain, no sense of morality, just muscle, synapses, and teeth. Motivational note. Congratulations on getting close enough to scan it and living to see the results. Extreme threat. Avoid in all circumstances. Ghost Leviathan. This creature is approaching the size limit for sustainable organic life forms and has been designated Leviathan class. Adults of this species have been encountered exclusively around the edges of the volcanic crater, which supports life on this part of the planet, and react with extreme aggression on approach. Cartilaginous extensions of this creature's skull form a hammerhead, which protects the ghost Leviathan as it performs devastating ramming attacks. While fully capable of tearing through the flesh of any creature in range, all evidence indicates that mature ghost leviathans feed on microscopic life forms in the waters around the edges of the inhabited zone. Their vicious attacks on interlopers to their domain are not predatory in nature, but territorial. A creature so vast requires a huge expanse of water to satisfy its daily calorie requirements. Its muscled interior body is surrounded by a translucent outer membrane, suggesting adaptation for deep, low-light environments. When threatened, it can tense its entire body before lashing out with incredible speed. Probable migratory behavior. This specimen was likely born far from the area it was encountered. Extreme threat. Avoid the crater edge.
Corporate profile, Torgal Corp. Torgal Corporation is a long-standing, family-run clan that operates almost a dozen mining and trading operations. The company's share price hit an all-time high on the announcement by the Mongolian cabal of their intention to construct a new phase gate utilizing Torgal materials. These plans were put on hold when Bart Torgal, the intended leader of the new mining operation, disappeared along with his father.
Mesmer. Small, carnivorous lifeform with a unique hunting mechanism that enables it to hypnotize its foes. The Mesmer swims using a number of wings which can be angled up and forwards on approaching its prey. Tiny lenses on the surface can be tilted independently to create mesmerizing patterns which flood the victim's brain with enticing messages, interpreted in whatever form is most convincing by the target. The Mesmer can open the jaw-like recesses in its protective outer shell in order to, Error 463, share its beauty. Do not resist. Assessment. Draw closer. Pyrocoral. This coral species is unlike any other encountered on 4546b insofar as it relies on magma flow rather than water current to deliver nutrients. As lava rises up from the planet's core and erupts at vents, this coral forms around the base until eventually it has surrounded the entire vent. Lava is then funneled up through the coral, allowing it to siphon minerals and heat as it goes. River Prowler, a fast, agile predator discovered at great depths. Powerful jaws used for both savaging prey and warding off larger predators. Its eel-like torso is highly vulnerable, consisting predominantly of spinal column and cartilage. It shows significant overlap with other eel-like predators on 4546b. It will aggressively keep its jaws facing its opponent, but smaller, faster lifeforms may have the advantage. Avoid. Reginald, a small herbivore and a distant relative of the common peeper, sharing that species' well-developed side-facing eyes, approximate size, and body profile. Dull green coloration for deep water camouflage. Luminescent tail coloration likely part of mating behavior. filters algae and other plant material from the water via 4 gill-like forward-facing orifices. Edible. High calorie count. Spinefish. Small, school-mentality prey fish, closely related to the hoopfish. A combination of near-translucent flesh with white, rib-like markings give this fish a deathly appearance. It takes advantage of this to avoid the attention of its predators. Moves in schools for protection, but will disperse and flee if necessary, whereupon those fortunate enough to escape the gaze of their assailants will make for the sea floor and hide amongst the detritus. Edible. Low calorie count. Larva. A grub-like species which appears to lack sight and smell, but is able to sense and drain thermal and electrical energy in its immediate environment. Its suction cups are capable of attaching to smooth surfaces and generating high-pressure suction. Be released if it comes under sufficient strain. Thick scales protect from extreme temperatures. The larva lacks a traditional digestive system. Instead, it powers its internal processes directly from the energy it consumes. Attracted to energy sources of all kinds. Draws energy from its prey to survive. Avoid when piloting vehicles. Remove to conserve batteries. Magma ray. This organism is an adaptation of the common boomerang, evolved to survive in high-temperature environments. Dark red coloration helps this subspecies to blend into indigenous rock environments. Orange detailing resembles active lava flow, deterring more cautious predators. Marginally bolder than its shallow-dwelling cousins, the magma ring will nonetheless flee any creature larger than itself with impressive speed. Edible. Red eye. A small herbivorous creature with poor maneuverability, evolved to inhabit high-temperature environments. Deep red and orange coloration enables this subject to blend into volcanic environments and reflect environmental thermal energy, thus rendering it almost invisible to most predators. Delicate, light-based eyesight is impractical at these temperatures, and the red eye has developed thermal vision in its place. In this species' volcanic domain, edible plant matter and potential predators are the coldest entities in range. Edible, low calorie count. Crimson ray, one of the largest rays on the planet, displaying generally docile behavior. Scales formed on the skin protect this ray from extreme temperatures, allowing it to survive in areas unpopulated by competing scavengers. Forward-mounted eye sockets suggests a predatory evolutionary history, left behind long ago. Lava lizard, a medium-sized predator adapted for life in volcanic regions, and remarkably able to spit molten rock at its foes. Its 4-mounted mandibles are designed to do maximum damage to prey. Sharp internal teeth tear through flesh and bone alike. The scar tissue is likely due to regular exposure to magma. Lava lizards build up a thick layer of scar tissue over time, which enables them to withstand even greater temperatures, inside and out. It is able to both defend itself by burying its body in magma and to go on the offensive by spitting molten rocks at its foes. Avoid, especially in the presence of lava flow.
This large egg is held in a hermetically sealed environment and has been chemically sterilized. Without the means at the facility to house a fully grown sea dragon specimen, it is possible the aliens sought to study instead the egg-laying and incubation process. To what end is unclear. Rib cage samples. A display case containing an array of rib cages harvested from the indigenous lifeforms. There is a particular focus in this instance on vertebrate skeletal structures. While some of the skeletons match organisms encountered on the planet so far, most cannot be matched with confidence, suggesting either that there are species out there not yet accounted for, or that they have become extinct since these samples were collected. Damage report. Leviathan detected at facility perimeter, closing at high speed. Exterior anchor cable impacted with massive force. Exterior anchor system buckling. Facility sinking. Collision with sea floor. Breaches detected in Containment Unit 7. Leviathan eggs. Immediate specimen destruction protocol initiated. 314 specimens destroyed. 1 specimen unaccounted for. Evacuating staff to off-site sanctuaries. Planetary quarantine protocol initiated. Warning: infected individuals may not leave the planet. Remains of research specimen. The skeletal remains of a vast predator, housed within an artificial habitat. The environment constructed to house the specimen suggests it was kept alive in containment for research purposes for months, or even years. Organic matter indicates the habitat once supported extensive plant life, though it has since decayed. When the facility collapsed, the specimen was either left to die or killed on the spot. While it shares some skeletal traits with the biter and the sand shark, including its distinctive double eye sockets, this fossilized specimen is significantly larger and features unusual forearms, rarely seen in aquatic species. This species has likely gone extinct in the past 1,000 years, and its evolutionary relatives have evolved almost beyond recognition. Warper parts. The organic parts on display contain DNA from dozens of different organisms, largely originating off-world. They are in varying states of augmentation with advanced technologies. This production line setup suggests these self-warping constructs were built, maintained, and deployed by the aliens that designed this facility. Carrara Contagion Profile. This terminal contains extensive data regarding the bacterial contagion identified as Carrara, first encountered during routine network expansion on outer worlds. Pandemic development. Network error resulted in routine quarantine procedure failure. Contagion was uploaded to and spread quickly through the core worlds. Confirmed deaths: 143 billion individuals. Bacterial mechanisms. Attaches to healthy living cells and mutates the basic genetic structure. Symptoms: Stage 1. Gradual immune system failure. Stage 2. Green skin lesions and flu-like symptoms. Stage 3. Unpredictable alterations to biological structure. Stage 4. Complete shutdown of executive function. Emergency steps taken. Core worlds quarantined. Bacterial samples distributed to isolated disease research facilities for vaccine development. Treatment procedure unknown. You have been infected with a previously unknown waterborne bacterium. It is currently multiplying in your bloodstream. Estimated incubation time: 2 weeks. Your immune system is currently combating the infection at low efficacy. You may already be experiencing flu-like symptoms and skin irritation. These will likely be exacerbated as the bacterium takes hold. Your immediate priority should be abatement and eradication of the infection. Recommended steps: salvage further alien research data on a possible vaccine. Investigate the mechanisms which have enabled the indigenous ecosystem to inhibit the symptoms of the infection. Self-warping quarantine enforcer unit. This lifeform shows signs of heavy genetic modification and extensive mechanical grafting. Its digestive and pulmonary systems have been replaced by an onboard battery, receiving energy directly from this facility and distributing it around the body. Miniaturization phase technology has been implanted beneath the skin and is triggered by the central nervous system, allowing the construct to teleport at will. The brain and central nervous system have been digitally augmented with advanced processing power and remote communications. Assessment: Programmable Hunter-Killer. Avoid. Specimen Research Data: a catalogue of information on the organisms previously contained within the alien facility. A number of entries have been translated. Small herbivore Gamma. This entry seems to reference the common peeper. Shows no immunity to infection. Death commonly occurs within 4 days. Shows symptom remission on exposure to enzyme 42, but symptoms quickly recur. Shows advanced learning behaviors. Shows some capacity to transmit enzymes to other specimens. Leviathan embryos. Adult specimen too large to study in containment. Egg specimens acquired from nesting site. Embryos show no signs of immunity. Death commonly occurs within 3 weeks. Small sample of eggs have been retained for continued high-priority research on Leviathan hatching mechanisms. Large carnivore Theta. Off-site lab established to study remains. Shows some potential for immunity to infection, but physical remains so far proved insufficient for full reconstruction. Unidentified Leviathan. This Leviathan species has been assigned designator Sea Emperor. Bone samples from Emperor specimens indicate some potential for Carrara immunity. Single specimen captured for study at purpose-built containment facility, constructed in volcanic region at depth 1.4 kilometers. Assessment: while it is unlikely that the Emperor specimen is still contained within the facility described, it may be possible to acquire further data there on the aliens' attempts to develop a vaccine. Sea Dragon Leviathan Skeleton. The semi-intact skeletal structure of a Leviathan-class predator. Head trauma. There is clear evidence of a massive physical trauma to the head. The damage is so severe it was likely the cause of death, and must have occurred somewhere nearby. Damage is consistent with a high-speed collision with a solid object. Something in the environment has helped to preserve these remains, but calcium decay suggests an approximate time of death 1,000 years ago. Bone growth suggests the creature was in the egg-laying stage of its life cycle.
Blood Crawler. An agile, territorial scavenger that moves in packs across the seabed. Closely related to the amphibious cave crawler, but adapted to deep sea conditions. The greatest difference between the crawlers on 4546b are the 4 legs, which extend more than a meter from the blood crawler's torso, allowing it to move at surprising speed across the seabed, and even to scale walls. The blood crawler can lower its entire body to bring its mandibles within grasping distance of the carrion on which it feeds, while retaining the maneuverability it requires to avoid its predators. Necessary waste recycler. Avoid or incapacitate.
Crystalline sulfur. Sulfur is a highly reactive, non-metallic element, usually found in abundance underground. Common applications include production of acidic compounds and combustibles, essential for advanced fabrication.
Ghost Leviathan Juvenile. This large predator has adapted to live in deep waters and dark cave systems, attacking anything and everything in its quest to grow larger. Soft outer membrane and elongated body enable superior navigation of tight cave environments. Displays some similarities to other eel-like predators in the area. However, the Ghost Leviathan has covered over the electrical prongs of its inner torso with a taut, transparent membrane, which delivers superior maneuverability. In its juvenile state, this Leviathan feeds on larger herbivores and unfortunate members of its own species. They display a remarkable rate of growth, which shows no signs of stopping, suggesting that they must abandon the hatching grounds before they grow too large and make for more open waters. Avoid.
Gargantuan fossil. The fossilized remains of an extinct superior predator. Its sheer size would have prohibited it from entering such an enclosed space, suggesting the geography of the planet has shifted around it over time. A true apex predator. Dated at approximately 3 million years old, ribcage measurements suggest the creature was eel-like in structure. Calculations suggest this is only the front third of the specimen. The remains now support a vibrant microcosm of life. Note, there are a series of precise angular indentations on the ribcage, suggesting a third party has taken samples from the specimen at a previous time.
Giant Cove Tree. A vast tree encountered in the deep cove, and the only one of its kind encountered on the planet. The tree is surrounded by rays, grazing on its pink outer leaves. A hardy, fast-growing bark covers the outside of the tree. Minuscule organisms inhabit the notches in the surface. The tree's branches are wrapped around a number of maturing eggs, belonging to the species designated Ghost Leviathan. This tree appears to be an ancient nesting ground. The eggs were laid when the tree was young, and now the branches protect and grow with them as they await the right conditions to hatch. Brine Lily. These lily-like plants have evolved to take advantage of the relative density of the acidic brine pools encountered near the ocean floor to float safely on the surface. Tendril-like roots extend down into the brine, drawing essential salts and minerals from the water.
Profitability projections. 2 choices. A. Carry on working long-haul missions on the outer reaches of space. B. Come up with a profitable business. Sell out to Alterra. Live happily ever after. I choose B. Ideas. A robot that builds other robots. A water filtration system that has infinite power. Solar power. Body heat. Do suns last forever? Check this. A phase gate that can be built by self-repairing robots instead of poor lonely humans on an 18-month mission. What happens when something goes wrong? A VR program that precisely simulates real life down to the finest detail. How do I know I didn't already invent it and I'm inside it right now? Don't want an intellectual property challenge. A gun that shoots other, smaller guns. Can't see any real objections to this one, except the legality. Alien biological history. This terminal contains data mapping the complete biological history of a member of the alien species. The dataset is hugely complex, but some basic facts can be reconstructed. Was grown from seed 1,708 Earth years ago, separated from broodlings early for special training. Inducted into Temple of Research as the youngest ever initiates, age 96. Downloaded a corrupted dataset and was stored for 3 years for refactoring. Relocated to the Outer Galaxy Cluster to support disease research endeavors. Relocated to 4546b for high-priority disease research. Contracted Carrara bacterium. Stored in Sanctuary 3, corporeal body safely disposed. Alterra launches the Aurora. Phase gate announced for the Ariadne Arm. The furthest reaches of inhabited space are due to expand as Alterra Corp launches a newly constructed capital ship carrying a phase gate bound for the Ariadne Arm. The Aurora will travel from space dock on the edge of Alterra space, making hundreds of consecutive phase gate jumps through 9 different Transgov authorities, and arrive on the far side of the Ariadne Arm in 3 months' time. From there, the command crew will pilot the ship beyond the final phase gate arriving in the next solar system approximately 18 months later. There, the elite team of engineers will begin a 6-month construction project on the new phase gate, a multi-trillion credit investment. In the absence of existing infrastructure in the region, the vessel is equipped with advanced thermal and nuclear power facilities. Altera Corp currently operates 9% of all phase gates in the galaxy. If the Altera mission is successful, Altera will have outmaneuvered a cabal of Mongolian corporations operating a range of outposts and mines in the region. Notes to self. So here we are, finally, in open space. We cross the galaxy to install a phase gate, to send ships to mine resources, to build more expensive ships, to install fancier phase gates. Are we trying to exhaust the galaxy, or just ourselves? 18.6. Yu's birthday. 40. Weeks before we get home. 400. Weeks it feels like before we get home. Not enough. Credits Altera's paying me. 1454. Cargo Bay Code. Transgov Profile. Altera Corp. One of the largest suppliers of spacefaring technologies and consumer electronics in the Federation. The official supplier of the TSF. Consistently ranked amongst the galaxy's best employers. Began life as a defense manufacturer in the mid-22nd century. National motto, get what you deserve. Although most transgovs can trace their roots back to Earth, Altera, literally meaning by Earth, is the only one brazen enough to take its name. During the expansion, Altera supplied arms to all sides, acquiring and housing a vast colonist workforce, and making the transition from manufacturer to corporate state. Altera's threat to cease trade was one of the turning points in the conflict, bringing about the end of hostilities and signing of the Charter. Today, Altera has a ban on all weapons within its borders, although loopholes exist for law enforcement officers and manufacturers/exporters. The corporation has learnt that violence is the most profitable when conducted between customers rather than employees. Free enterprise within Altera space is encouraged, but competition is tight, and all goods exported off-world must be Altera branded. Profitable businesses are bought out by the state, owners ascending to the Altera board of directors. Well-known Altera technologies such as the Cyclops submersible originated with such private enterprises. Despite superficial similarities to national governments, the corporation's lawyers have always maintained that it has no legal obligation to its employees, but voluntarily elects to take on the roles usually served by a democratically elected government. This claim has not yet been tested in Federation courts. VR Suite Log. Loading program. Desert Island Drama.vrat. Size. 3 players. Resources. Normal. Spawning players on beach. Player 1 has been washed away by an unusually high tide. Player 2 has traded a coconut with Player 3 for 10 credits. Player 3 has planted a coconut. Players are getting hungry. Player 3 has grown a coconut tree. Player 3 has eaten a coconut. Player 3 is no longer hungry. Player 3 has traded a coconut with Player 2 for 30 credits. Player 2 has eaten a coconut, but is still hungry. Player 3 has traded a coconut with Player 2 in exchange for building a tent. Player 3 is sleeping inside their tent. Player 2 is cold. Night falls. A passing ship is offering trading. Player 2 has traded 30 credits for a musket. Player 3 has been shot twice in the head while sleeping. Player 2 wins. Player 2 has died from cold and starvation. Aurora Auxiliary Mission Orders. Mission. Search and rescue. Target. Crew of the Mongolian vessel Degassi. Last known position. Vicinity of planet 4546b, Ariadne Arm. Contacts. Mongolian Embassy, Joshi Kasar. Aurora Passenger Quarters. Mission Brief. A Mongolian vessel, the Deckard, disappeared almost a decade ago, carrying with it a high-ranking Mongolian chief. Corporate insurance has purchased passage aboard the Aurora for emissary Kassar, and your orders are to make every reasonable effort to locate and retrieve the Deckard crew members, without compromising the primary mission. Confirming the fate of the crew will aid Alterra's diplomatic efforts with the Mongolian councils. Mission details. Aurora is due to perform a slingshot maneuver around 4546b, Category 3 Ocean Planet, approximately 13 months post-launch. This will bring the ship within range of the Deckard's last known position. Additional aquatic and all-terrain vehicles have been included in the Aurora's cargo package for this mission. Deckard crew manifesto has been distributed to senior employees in a separate message. Today's menu. Starter. Space Bear Volute. Since their introduction to the interstellar vacuum in the 21st century, microscopic tardigrades, or space bears, have adapted and flourished where no other life form have survived. Condensed into a smooth, nutty, protein-rich soup, they are the freshest local ingredient available to travelers on long-haul space flights. Main. Cottage pie, or nutrient block. Rehydrated minced beef in its own gravy, served with a topping of mashed Chinese potato, picked fresh this morning from onboard grow beds, and a side of sautéed Chinese potato plant leaves. For the time-conscious consumer, the usual nutrient block options are available. They may be consumed cold or reconstituted at the on-site fabricator. Dessert. Dried fruits and nuts. Unfortunately, a recent accident in Cargo Bay 3 involving the incorrect application of a repulsion cannon in combination with a modified battery charger resulted in the venting into space of all dehydrated desserts. Fruit and nuts will be the only available dessert for the next 39 weeks. High security terminal. Captain's quarters. Before they lost communications, Alterra HQ uploaded a set of blueprints to the Aurora's main computer. There is a high security terminal inside the captain's quarters, located behind the prawn bay, from which the blueprints should be accessible. The code is 2679. Captain's log. Loading program Craig McGill Simulator.VRAT. Size 1 player. Captain Hot Dog Hollister. Map Boreal 9. Resources normal. You are exploring a quiet alien backwater when the ship you arrived here in implodes. It must be the arachnid kidney poachers. Quick, what will you do? Search the crash site. Farm alien plants. Use the tectonic de-imploder. Unavailable. That's just what Craig McGill would do. After foraging for some hours, you have collected a number of potentially farmable foodstuffs. Which will you sustain yourself with? Stank root, tree roaches, starwall eggs. While the starwall eggs are nutritious, the life cycle of these vast, spacefaring creatures is much too slow to sustain a farm, and besides, their mother is extremely angry with you. Do you fight the starwall, apologize to the starwall, or accept your fate? Craig McGill knows that there is no reasoning with a mother scorned. You are not so much torn apart as swallowed whole and disintegrated. Quick, what will you do? Search the crash sites, farm alien plants, or use the tectonic de-imploder? You choose farm alien plants. Fight the starwall, apologize to the starwall, or accept your fate. You choose, accept your fate. The atoms you thought were you are gradually redistributed in a service of the starwall's continued survival. Would you like to continue? Yes or no? You have chosen no. Aurora Black Box Data. Initiated slingshot maneuver around planet 4546b. High-velocity energy pulse detected on planet surface. Emergency distress signal sent to Alterra listening buoy via long-range comm relay. Impact detected. Lifepod bays on starboard side compromised. Outgoing communications compromised. Emergency evacuation initiated. Manual piloting transferred to Captain Hollister. Lifepods 1 through 25 launched successfully. Entering planetary atmosphere. Massive impact registered.
Integrating new PDA data.
Drive core shield compromised. Emergency bouncebacks received from 8 lifepods on planet surface. Human life signs detected over long range at T plus 8 hours, 1. Personnel unaccounted for. Non-Essentials System Maintenance Chief Riley Robinson. Alterra HQ Rescue Solution received at T plus 8 hours to High Priority Terminal and Captain's Quarters. Monitoring equipment failed at T plus 13 hours. Lab access. If you need to tweak your equipment, please use the mod station in the forward section, or retrieve pre-configured equipment from the lab next door to the data coil. The door code is 6483. What can we learn from the hive mind of Strata 6? How are the individuals which make up the hive mind to be categorized? Are they merely dumb components of the larger, intelligent organism? Or is the larger mind merely a product of the independent organisms? Can it be both? We define organisms by their traits, but find invariably that these traits depend on those of their environment. The concept of a tadpole is meaningless without the concept of the frog it will develop into. The idea of a predator is empty without an understanding of its prey. This begs the question, if we define everything by reference to everything else, what have we actually explained? An illustrative experiment was recently performed on the hive mind colony discovered on Strata 6. A device was placed outside the nest which would electrocute individuals approaching it. An ant colony would have lost many individuals before a basic danger signal was successfully communicated between them, resulting in learnt avoidance of the device. Successful, but costly. The Strata 6 colony quickly formed into 2 factions. One attempted to move the device by brute force, sacrificing individuals as they did so. The second attempted to cover the device in sand. These 2 goals being mutually exclusive, a fight ensued. The first faction was beaten in virtue of their reduced numbers. The device was safely buried, and the survivors called a truce. From the perspective of the individuals, this experience must have been horrific. From the perspective of the hive mind, a nagging problem had been overcome with a most effective solution. Which perspective is the correct one? I suggest that it is neither. By attempting to fit such entities into our rigid set of concepts, we are painting onto the world a false impression of concreteness and meaning, which is a reflection of our concepts of ourselves. We describe Strata 6 individuals as attacking one another, just as we describe microbes in the human body as doing the same. Yet the Strata colony, like the body, cannot be healthy as a whole without the aggressions of its components. We describe neurons in the brain as being dumb, but the brains as a whole as intelligent. But when an idea takes hold in the brain and forces out inferior ones, do we describe this as an act of aggression? Do we mourn dead neurons? When a philosophy or a technology takes hold in human society, when wars are fought over them and people die, is that rightly seen as being good or evil? This is not to undermine the meaning of our existence. From where we stand, our existence is very serious indeed. But is our civilization and our universe really any different from the colony on Strata 6? Is intelligence something limited to things of flesh and blood? Or is the universe truly one gigantic intelligence system, and we but amoeba blowing self-important portholes in its surface? We would do well, as scientists, to remember that our goal is not to paint the world as we see it, but to see it as it truly is. Alterra Arms Pamphlets. Charity is an archaic concept which the realism of today's Alterrans have rendered obsolete. We understand that we are each responsible for ourselves, but the best way to get the most for ourselves is to work together with Alterra. The implication of this reasoning is clear. If someone is in need, they must find a way to be needed. Altera Arms is a training academy for those that need to be needed. We're not a charity, because we don't ask for handouts. We prefer to think of ourselves as a philanthropic beneficence facilitation service, promoting synergy between employer and workforce. AA operates on a lottery system. By investing any number of credits, you will be entered into our prize draw. Larger investments yield higher chances of winning. Your credits will go toward training unskilled colonists in vital tasks, such as maintenance and interpersonal skills. The colonists receive this training voluntarily and free of charge, on condition of a minimum contract with one of our investors on the completion of their training. Sweet offer from Huggins to Wilson. You're telling me you've been on this rig more than a year and you never took a ride on the outside? Well now, you've only gone and gotten yourself a friend with the keys to a giant fricking robot suit. We've plain got nothing to do till we get Starside to work on the gates.
Integrating new PDA data.
If you want to taste the stars, you've only got to say, my spare prawn suit's got your name on it. You don't know what power feels like till you've crushed an asteroid with your bare, heavily mechanically augmented hands. Want to play catch with a passing meteor? Come by cabin number 1, codes 1869.
Vital signs stabilizing.
Responsible Autonomous Relationships. Forward by Jenny Eklund. All the good things in life are commodities. We trade love just as we buy and sell stock. We engage in human relationships when there is a fair exchange of value, support, motivation, affection. Nothing good is ever free. If every physical good in the Federation came from a single supplier, it would constitute a dangerous monopoly. Personal relationships are the same. It is important for people to get what they need from multiple sources. If a person finds a better source of the goods they require, they are not wronging the original supplier by changing their purchasing arrangements. If one member of the relationship should feel threatened or jealous, they must look at their own business model and ask whether it is performing competitively. There is always room for improvement. Drive core shielding breach. The Aurora's drive core is shielded by a thick metal shell, which breached in multiple locations shortly after the crash. Once breached, it will continue to leak radiation into the surrounding environment until the breaches are sealed.
Containment breach repaired. Further breaches detected. Vital signs stabilizing.
After that point, the radiation in the environment will dissipate over time.
Containment breach repaired. Further breaches detected.
This procedure should only be attempted with appropriate radiation protection and a fully charged repair tool. Kyanite. Kyanite is a blue silicate mineral which forms under high temperature, high pressure conditions. It is resistant to heat up to 1100 degrees Celsius and is thermoelectric, making it a valuable component of thermal power plants, essential for advanced fabrication. Alien robot. This device is of alien origin, although its design is relatively simple. Its low threat level is at odds with the advanced technology apparently available to its designers, suggesting it was intended more to patrol alien facilities and repair damaged infrastructure than to deter invaders. Despite its simple design, this construction is quite elegant in its minimalism. 4 electromagnetic legs allow it to traverse floors, walls, and ceilings with reasonable speed, and appear to be replaceable. Internally there are few moving parts, rendering this construct energy efficient and resistant to wear over time. A rechargeable ion-based power reserve ensures it continues to operate. Assessment. Immobilize and return to Altera for mutual profit. Fossil data. Fossil data recorded from the volcanic rock that was excavated to construct the alien power facility. it has been possible to extrapolate a number of key trends. Genetic divergence. The aliens recorded data on indigenous organic remains originating between 10,000 and 1,000 years ago. The life forms on record feature an unusually low overlap with those encountered so far on 4546b. Extinction event. Soil samples from 1,000 years ago contain 300% higher concentrations of organic remains than the soil average. Data supports a mass extinction event killing off a majority of species and forcing rapid adaptation amongst many of the survivors. Blue tablets, smooth and cold, with a blue light which illuminates an alien symbol resembling an uppercase H. While it is likely these devices served in part as a security clearance for whoever constructed them,
Come here, to me.
this size suggests some additional purpose, such as personal computers. Whatever the case, the technology is far beyond humanity's own. Ion power data. It has been possible to extract useful information regarding alien ion power. Ion cubes are grown artificially from a mineral substance and are treated to remain in a stable state despite huge ionic energy contained within. By installing an ion cube in an appropriate device, this energy can be released as electrical power. Using this knowledge, it has been possible to synthesize new battery and power cell blueprints, which leverage advanced ionic energy to last considerably longer. Alien thermal plant. This system is directly converting local thermal energy into electric current at 90% efficiency. Most of this energy is being stored in the battery-like devices within the plant itself, each of which holds enough to power a small city for a year. Some of it, however, is being drained off, presumably as it is distributed to other facilities on the planet. The power plant appears to be fully automated and, given current understandings of the mechanisms involved, uninterruptible. Primary containment facility. A power router in the thermal plant is distributing energy collected on site to other facilities on the planet. Primary containment facility location updated. Constructed within a natural chasm, connected to this cave network. South-southeast. Area of volcanic activity. Depth 1.4 kilometers. Power distribution. Self-warping quarantine enforcement units 5%. Arch network 10%. Sanctuaries Alpha, Beta, Kappa 10%. Quarantine enforcement platform 35%. Disease research facility offline. Primary containment facility 20%. Reserve 20%. There is no clear way to interrupt the power flow. Ion Cube Fabricator. This device appears to be the origin of the raw mineral that forms the base of the ion cubes, which power smaller alien systems. Likely drawing power itself from the main thermal plant, this device may represent an almost limitless source of energy. Enzyme 42 Project Data.
Integrating new PDA data.
According to translated data logs, an indigenous Leviathan species was found to produce a unique substance referred to as Enzyme 42, which inhibited the symptoms of the Carrara bacterial infection in other indigenous organisms. The specimen was captured and contained in a purpose-built habitat for further study. The alien researchers went to great lengths to provide for the lifeform's environmental needs, including the import of independent flora and fauna via the on-site warp gate. However, its health quickly deteriorated. When quarantine was imposed, all warp gates and force fields were sealed. All attempts to develop the enzyme into a vaccine had been unsuccessful. Found preserved in a display case, it is likely a child of the adult specimen contained within the facility. Superficial damage to the specimen indicates it was artificially removed from its egg casing. Stunted tissue development suggests the organism expired during the removal process. Tissue samples have been taken from the digestive tract. Analysis. It appears the aliens were attempting to formulate a cure for the bacterium from enzymes produced in this specimen's digestive system. Without a young, healthy specimen, those efforts were in vain. The shell casing is formed from thick layers of carbon composite, suggesting an extensive gestation period. This Leviathan species may give birth just once per century, perhaps just once in their lifetimes. Precise incisions suggest a laser-based tool was used to cut open the egg casing prior to full gestation. Analysis. Time pressure to develop a bacterial vaccine may have driven the alien researchers to cut open this egg and remove the fetus for study. It is also possible that, removed from its parent and natural habitat, some vital condition for the infant to hatch naturally was not met. Ancient Earth Blade. An ancient earth blade dating back to the 13th century. Blood samples on the blade match the DNA of 7 separate heads of state from that period. The evidence supports the theory that the aliens are an ancient, space-borne civilization engaged in the surreptitious study of less developed species. Alien carving. This carving is hundreds of thousands of years old and made from an unrecognized natural fiber grown on an unknown planet. It bears striking resemblance to an old Earth yin-yang symbol. 2 competing theories may explain this similarity. 1. Aliens visited Earth prior to the 4th century BC and influenced the development of ancient Chinese philosophy. Or 2. The concept of yin and yang is universal. Since yin and yang describes the fundamental interdependency of seemingly opposite forces, it may be a necessary existential understanding, in some form, in all sufficiently developed civilizations. The tapering of 2 circles, the union, into opposed and infinitesimally small points, the finite, is one logical way to represent this understanding, and may have been developed independently by species other than humans. Alien Statue. This artifact is unpowered, suggesting it served a ceremonial rather than practical purpose. The pyramid resembles vines, spiraling upwards towards the warm blue stone mounted above it. It may represent a plant found on the aliens' home world, a building of religious import, or even the gravitational pull of their home solar system. Holographic projector. This device contains network apparatus and a holographic projection unit. It was likely used as a communications relay, capturing and projecting the image of the user to a remote location. There do not appear to be any other devices in range. Rudimentary tablet. This device shares many similarities with the tablets used to access the alien facilities, although its structure is rather less complex, granting security access and storing relevant data, and was thus kept here as a form of legacy support. Water flowing to and from the primary containment facility is being automatically controlled, independently of other safeguards. Data on the water composition has been recorded. Water is being drawn from different biomes around the surface of the planet. The water temperature is considerably lower than the volcanic environment outside the facility, while microorganism and nutrient counts are substantially higher. Oxygen-deprived water is being flooded from the system and being recycled back to the surface. The pipes drawing water into the containment facility are filled with peepers arriving from the surface. The fish show no signs of distress. The specimens scanned have all consumed high quantities of seeds and organic matter from the surface. Some specimens are beginning to show signs of infection. A peeper specimen was observed emitting a faint fluorescent enzyme trail and engaging in unusual behavioral patterns. Peeper is actively approaching other creatures, including predators. The specimen is host to a bacterial infection, however the infection is currently dormant.
Peeper's stomach cavity contains an unknown enzyme of foreign origin. Chemical analysis of enzyme bears some superficial similarities to the stomach enzymes of larger predators. Contact with the enzyme appears to inhibit the symptoms of the bacterial infection. Complex structure renders synthesis impossible. Assessment. Recommend further research into the enzyme origin. Translation device. This device stores linguistic data from over 1,000 different languages. The core of the device may allow alien text to be read and translated. Analysis of the onboard data reveals a number of ancient Earth languages, and the term CHBC Live appears many times in the data's device. Its import is unclear. The device seems to be configured to translate into the designer's language. It will not work the other way around. Nanobots. Scans show some form of advanced nanobot inside this seemingly empty case. These bots are substantially smaller than any developed within the Federation, and it is not possible to ascertain their exact function. It would, however, be unwise to release them. Organic matter particulator. This device contains a highly unstable radioactive isotope, likely to destroy all organisms exposed to it, while leaving physical structures intact. Although it would function perfectly well as a weapon, it was more likely used to sterilize spaces for later inhabitation. Without instructions, it would be unwise to interact with it. Tracking implant. This construct is emitting a high bandwidth signal consistent with the alien transmissions intercepted elsewhere. DNA on the exterior indicates it was once implanted inside one of the lifeforms indigenous to 4546b, its size suggesting the subject was a Leviathan-class organism. Beyond tracking and broadcasting its location, the implant may also have recorded biological data on the subject. However, this data cannot be retrieved. Alien building block. This rock-like object features organic as well as mechanical parts, and there is some genetic and technological crossover with the design of the self-warping constructs encountered elsewhere. It appears to serve no purpose in its current state, and is awaiting some kind of activation sequence. Materials such as this may have been a fundamental building block of the aliens' technology, or even of the aliens themselves. While all other creatures encountered within the facility are isolated within it, peepers appear to be coming and going of their own accord via the alien pipe network. On arrival, peepers are approaching the Sea Emperor. Peepers exhibit a natural affinity for the stomach enzymes being expelled by the Emperor. Peepers which have come into contact with the enzyme are returning to the pipe network. Analysis. This behavior must be the source of enzyme 42 on 4546b, or the area thereof which supports life. It is likely also responsible for the survival of the Emperor and the other life forms contained within the facility. A peeper specimen was observed emitting a faint, fluorescent enzyme trail, and engaging in unusual behavioral patterns. Peeper is actively approaching other creatures, including predators. The specimen is a host to a bacterial infection, however the infection is currently dormant. Peeper's stomach cavity contains an unknown enzyme of foreign origin. Chemical analysis of enzyme bears some superficial similarity to the stomach enzymes of larger predators. Contact with the enzyme appears to inhibit the symptoms of the bacterial infection. Complex structure renders synthesis impossible. Assessment. Recommend further research into the enzyme origin. Uncommonly strong shell lining. Organic growth on the exterior suggests these eggs may be hundreds or thousands of years old. Alien devices penetrate the outer shell layer, likely designed to supply them with nutrients and to isolate them from the surrounding environment. Like many eggs on 4546b, they do not contain a nutrient supply which is slowly exhausted by the embryo. Instead, they exist in a form of natural stasis,
awaiting appropriate hatching conditions. There is a high genetic match between these organisms and the Leviathan in the vicinity. They appear to be stable and healthy. It is likely that ideal hatching conditions for the eggs vary considerably from ideal survival conditions for the parent. The Emperor specimen's eggs are attached to some form of incubator. In a normal life cycle, it seems likely that the sea emperors would have buried their eggs in shallower waters, where different organic materials in the soil would have triggered a hatching response. The incubator suggests that the aliens have resorted to developing artificial hatching enzymes which would simulate the egg's natural hatching environment, but were unable to discover the formula. With extensive information on the sea emperors themselves, it may still be possible to fabricate an artificial hatching enzyme using indigenous ingredients. However, the only surviving source of that information may be the sea emperor itself. Available biological data has been used to synthesize the effects of the alien bacterium on the sea emperor's natural life cycle. This creature likely lived and moved in small herds around the planet's ocean trenches, coming to the surface to feed off the huge volumes of microorganisms in the shallower waters. Family size would have been strictly limited by available food supply. Offspring would likely split off at a young age to form their own herds elsewhere. Given their sparse population, mating and egg-laying were likely infrequent, perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime event. The species likely had a preferred environment for egg-laying. In fact, successful hatching may depend on such conditions. Given the rarity of this event, it is impossible to calculate those conditions precisely. There is no evidence to support the assumption that all members of the species were immune from the alien bacterium. Even if this is so, there is evidence that introduction of the bacterium decimated life on the planet, and this would have had catastrophic effects on the Emperor's food supply and survival rate. The symbiotic relationship between this specimen and other life forms likely developed as a direct result of the bacterial infection. Those life forms which learned to keep the Emperor alive survived with its help. This may explain the vast tracts of lifeless ocean and a rough perimeter around the Emperor's location.
Sea crown. This plant consists primarily of a large bladder-like sac containing a huge variety of bacterial species, which may enable it to break down complex compounds it draws from the root system. Shares large sections of genetic code with the membrane tree. Environment scans indicate this plant is rare to the point of extinction. Gabe's feather. This plant grows almost exclusively in deeper waters, where its hand-like leaves have evolved to filter sediment from the environment. It is likely dependent on the excretions of fauna populating the waters above and around it. Giant bulb bush. This vast plant is centuries old. While it dominates the surrounding area, a complex root system below the surface connects it with other bulb bushes in the area. Nutrient flow within the network suggests the giant bulb has adapted to feed the weaker bushes and keep the forest healthy. Sea Emperor juvenile, a juvenile emperor specimen. It is producing a highly potent form of enzyme 42, which should be capable of fully curing individuals of the alien bacterium. Sea Dragon Leviathan. A colossal leviathan with reptilian features, seen stalking the very heart of the volcanic crater which underpins life in this area. The scanned specimen measured 112 meters in length. Tissue analysis reveals that this specimen consists of 1/3 inanimate materials, focused around the chest area. Consumption and retention of mineral substances may explain the lifeform's ability to withstand extremes of temperature. It even appears to be able to consume molten materials and expel them at its adversaries. Evolutionary distinct forearms are used for both propulsion and defensive purposes. Findings suggest evolutionary divergence from other species on the planet tens of millions of years ago. The sea dragon is likely one of the oldest species on the planet. As the largest carnivorous species encountered on 4546b, almost anything is potential prey. With few substantial targets in the volcanic cave systems, the sea dragon likely ventures out into cooler waters to hunt other, smaller leviathans, cornering them and forcing them deeper, where they are ultimately boiled alive. The sea dragon's size and the restrictions of the cave systems they inhabit suggests their population numbers are extremely low, perhaps in the single digits. While it is not unusual for larger predators to sustain lower populations, it is possible the sea dragon's food sources have diminished over time. This species may be nearing extinction. Extreme threat. Avoid in all circumstances.